I'm here because I am a roaring lion crying out righteousness. So anybody who's in America, you've got to know about the name Cassidy Hutchinson, the woman who testified, the 26-year-old that testified yesterday before the January 6th Select Committee investigating what took place on January 6th, what led up to it, and what has followed since then. This 26-year-old aide to White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows dropped the bombshell. A lot of people was waiting for what they would refer to as the John Dean moment, when John Dean testified for 4 days before the Watergate hearings and just dropped the bombshell on Nixon. Well, this was not only the John Dean moment, if you don't mind my saying so, this was a John damn moment. What this young girl, in less than 2 hours, turned the entire world upside down at 26 years old. And I'm going to say more about that over the next few days, how someone who could be so composed and courageous at 26 years of age. But she was indeed the closest aide to White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows on January 6th, and specifically gave testimony about what is happening. But before I get there, I want to suggest to you, first of all, we're in the tribulation. I want to let you know that. That's an event of time spoken of in prophecy by the Lord Jesus Christ as what will be the tumultuous years of redestructing what he had created in creation. We'll learn more about that. But for your own reading, you can read the Gospel of Matthew in the New Testament, chapter 24. Will tell you exactly what the tribulation is all about. We're in that period now. We have entered into that. You and I are in that period as those are yet alive. But I also want to let you know that we have witnessed now and are witnessing now the collapse of America and Western democracy. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Benjamin Netanyahu was ousted a year ago, and the Israeli Knesset voted in an Arab to be the leader, president, prime minister of Israel. Now, of course, they've got several parties there. They got the Likud, they got conservative, they got other parties there, and the majority party kind of rules what happens in the Knesset. Well, in Arab, and because of all of the political trouble that Benjamin Netanyahu is having, he lost. He's making a return, and he hasn't been prosecuted as of yet. But the government has collapsed because the Arab that was voted in was unable to lead Israel. So she is in total disarray at this present moment. Boris Johnson, who is the Prime Minister of England, just barely survived by the skin of his teeth a no confidence vote going back a week or so ago. And though he's still in power in what is known as Partygate, going back a year or so, where he had a major party at number 10 Down Street, Down Street in London, where everybody else was, wearing masks and getting vaccinated. He had a big hullabaloo party where people were drinking and carrying on with no mask and partying. And he was called before the British Parliament, and they voted because they had no further confidence in him as a leader. He barely survived it, but he doesn't have any power, so he has collapsed as well. And of course, we see what's happening now in America, that the American sense of democracy has collapsed because the MAGA people are not going to buy any of what the January 6th people are putting forth, even if they believe it to be true. It doesn't matter to them. It is all justified. In fact, they wish it had gone more. There are MAGA people, while the events of what Cassidy Hutchinson said yesterday were chilling. You have to understand that the MAGA crowd, which is a large segment of the American Republican Party and a large segment of the American populace in general, wish that more had been done. Everything that she said that we thought was so stunning, such as, Trump wanted to remove the magnetometers so they could bring in their AR-15s to the meeting on the Ellipse where he was speaking and then march them over to the Capitol building. Though it didn't happen, to you, to someone who's not MAGA, you may think, how awful that was and how insensitive it was. Let me tell you what the MAGA people think, including Trump. They wish they could have done it. They're not sorry about it didn't happen. They feel they failed. They feel miserable that those MAGA automatons remain. So I want you to look at it from this. The two things I want to say about where we are on this January 6th committee here. Don't take sides. You're in the tribulation. Don't get discombobulated by taking sides with this one or that one or the right or the left, because it's not going to do you any good. That's first thing. The second thing is, of course, is that because we are in the tribulation, all these things are tribulation prophecy controlled. And the MAGA people, that is a large segment of America, have already decided they're not going to be, left-wing, progressive, democratic, if you will, liberal Americans. They're not going to do it. And I mean, and as is the left-wing, progressive, democratic, liberal Americans decided they're not going to be MAGA. They're not going to ever follow Trump. They wouldn't follow Trump, to the ice cream truck. So America's effectively a collapsed nation. We just haven't begun to see the pieces fall as of yet. And then the other thing I'm going to do is, and while it's chilling as those things that were said yesterday by Cassidy Hutchinson, the MAGA people, which represents millions of Americans, wish the hell that they had taken place. They're going to blame Trump for not carrying through on the matter, such as hang Mike Pence and a bunch of other things. What I'm going to do now, understand that we're in the context of war. I'm going to ask the engineer if he'll run video clip number 1, where she gives an overview of the accounts of January 6th, and then we'll come back with more discussion about that. But understand this. This is, this is all over with. We have two nations now. We have a collapse of democracy, and so, all right, Mr. Just run it. I'll have more to say.
Her testimony has rattled Capitol Hill.
Are you aware of any members of Congress seeking pardons?
Once a top aide to former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, Cassidy Hutchinson is now a key witness in the House January 6 committee's investigation, giving hours of testimony in multiple sessions.
Mr. Gates and Mr. Brooks, I know, have both advocated for there to be a blanket pardon for members involved in that meeting, and a handful of other members that weren't at the December 21st meeting as the preemptive pardons. Mr. Bakes did. Mr. Gomer asked for one as well. And Mr. Perry asked for a pardon too.
Hutchinson worked closely with Meadows in the White House, sitting in on meetings and at times serving as a liaison between the former president's right hand and those seeking to reach him. Representatives Biggs and Perry have denied seeking pardons. Hutchinson's unique access proving critical.
Did you hear the White House counsel's office say that this plan to have alternate electors meet and cast votes for Donald Trump in states that he had lost was not legally sound?
Yes, sir.
And who was present for that meeting that you remember?
It was in our office. It was Mr. Meadows, Mr. Giuliani, and a few of Mr. Giuliani's associates.
Well, hello, deplorables!
Meadows, who now refuses to be interviewed by the House committee, once provided thousands of text messages in the early stages of the investigation, showing him at the center of Trump's lies about the 2020 election and playing a lead role in attempting to stop Biden's certification on January 6th. Events and conversations Hutchinson had a front row seat to.
Who do you remember being involved in those early discussions around the Thanksgiving time regarding having alternate electors meet?
Mr. Giuliani, several of Mr. Giuliani's associates, Mr. Meadows, members of Congress, although it's difficult to distinguish if the members that I'm thinking of were involved during Thanksgiving or if they were involved as we progress through December.
According to the committee, Hutchinson also testified that Meadows had been directly warned the events of January 6th could turn violent. Hutchinson has a history in Republican politics. Now in her 20s, she previously worked for other high-profile conservatives, including Ted Cruz and Steve Scalise. Earlier this month, Hutchinson dropping her Trump world attorney for an ally of former Attorney General and Trump punching bag Jeff Sessions, fueling speculation Hutchinson would appear live before the committee.
Now, sources have told CNN that at least some of the secrecy around her live testimony is because there are real concerns for Hutchinson's safety, given what she has told.
Now, let me say this, that let me say this first. I'm not a Democrat nor a Republican. I am neither. I am neither. You need to be clear about it. I'm the Lord's servant. I'm not on anybody's side. I'm only on the side of truth and righteousness. So I don't think I'm biased one towards another. I've graduated from that. But I have to tell you that nothing that the January 6th committee has revealed so far is damaging in the eyes, while you find it earth-shaking in the eyes of the liberals or the Democrats. The MAGA people or conservatives or Trump people do not find it damaging at all. In fact, they're probably disappointed that worse things have not happened. So I want to be able to explain that in the context that we're in not necessarily a quiet war, but we're in if you will, second civil war. The actual hot metal bullets have not started flying yet, but they potentially will. Once the indictments and trials for people like Mark Meadows and John Eastman, Rudolph Giuliani, and others are put on trial, and many of them are going to be convicted to long prison sentences, and an indictment will come down for Trump. And I'll explain a little bit more of that in other broadcasts. We're going to see a much more, if you will, armed America at each other's throat. But be absolutely clear that the not just American democracy has collapsed, but Western democracy has collapsed. And you may not understand this, but that's why you listen to me. Right now, Russia, which is Gog, has his hand on the throat of Europe, and their heating season coming up in this year on France, Germany, and Italy. They get their natural gas and petrol gasoline from Russia, and there is no way that anybody can alternatively supply these nations with the kind of energy sources they're going to need to make it through next winter. And Russia has got his hand on their throat. Not only that, but he's got his hands on the throat of Africa in terms of the breadbasket of grain and going out from Russia and Ukraine to feed Africa. And then finally, in talking about the collapse of America and the strength now that Russia has more strength now than it did before the attack in Ukraine. And you understand that. Now, I'm not here promoting Russia or down in Ukraine. I'm just telling you what they won't tell you otherwise. Russia is stronger now. And those sanctions that Joe Biden and the West leveled against Russia has not worked. You know, McDonald's, 850 stores in Russia. McDonald's said they're going to pull out of Russia, right? And did you know what Putin did with his boys? Putin got together and put together their Russian version of McDonald's, and people are just as happy eating Big Macs and Quarter Pounders and fries that are made with the same kind of ingredients and taste that McDonald's had, but now owned by a Russian company. In fact, Russia has a stronger economy right now than does America. And this winter is going to prove a humdinger if Russia cuts off the gas line too. So what I'm trying to say to you is that the American democracy has collapsed. Now, I'm not un-American. Hey, that's all you black people. Oh, y'all ain't for America. Y'all ought to go back to Africa somewhere. Yeah, man, you just like all the other black people. Y'all ain't for that. Go back to Africa if you don't like America. No, I'm not that, brother. No, come on now. I love America. I love America. I slave the American flag. I eat apple pie. Take me out to the ball game. God bless America. No, but I'm just telling you, man. Okay, just because I tell the truth, all of a sudden that makes me a hater? American democracy has collapsed. And by the way, Humpty Dumpty ain't going to be put back together again. This is it, brothers. This is it.